Good morning, everyone. My name is Councillor Carl Lewis, and I have the pleasure of chairing this Planning, Taxi and Licensing and Rights of Way Committee today. We'll go to the first item on the agenda, which is apologies. Over to you, Carol, for apologies and the roll call, please.
Okay, now done. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth D. Jones. Councillor Tom Colbert. Councillor Angela Davis. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Les George. Councillor Hyland Hume has sent apologies. Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade.
Present.
Councillor Ian McIntosh.
Present.
Councillor Jeff Morgan. Councillor Gareth Pugh has sent apologies. Councillor Edwin Roderick. Councillor Gwynfor Thomas.
Good morning, present.
Councillor Elwyn Vaughan. Councillor Jonathan Wilkinson has sent apologies, and Councillor Hugh Williams. And Chair, there are officers present as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol. As officers as we move through the agenda. On to the second item of the agenda, which is minutes of the previous meeting. They are pages 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do I have a proposer and a seconder to state that they were an accurate record of what transpired, please? Looking for a proposer and seconder.
Proposer, correct, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Les. Do I have a seconder, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. On to item number 3 of the agenda, which is declarations of interest. A, to receive any declarations of interest from members relating to items to be considered on the agenda. Councillor Adrian. You need to put your mic on.
Yes, Chair, I want to declare an interest in the second 22/1268 full. I'm a personal friend of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else online? No. Okay. B, to receive members' requests that a record be made of their membership of town or community council where a discussion has taken place of matters for consideration of this committee. No. Okay. C, to receive declarations from members of the committee that they'll be acting as a local representative in respect to an individual application being considered by the committee. D, to note details of members of the County Council who are not members of the committee who will be acting as a local representative in respect to an individual application being considered by the committee. I believe we have 2 here today. Councillor Jeremy.
Yes, I will be representing as a local member for item the item about the cottage in Montgomery.
Thank you very much.
Gareth Morgan, I'm the member for one of the members for Llanidloes, and I'm concerned with item 1 on the agenda, which is 38 Garden Suburb, Llanidloes.
Thank you very much. There's no one online. Okay, on to item number 4, which is 4.1, the updates. Has everyone had a chance to read the update? If no one signals that they haven't, then we'll move on, which is the first application of today's agenda, which is application 22/2099/HH. This is a householder intending to existing drop curb, a widen access to create a vehicle parking at Havard number 38 Garden Suburb, Llanidloes. Taking us through this application is Rhian Griffiths, Planning Officer. Over to you, Rhian.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. So this application relates to the creation of off-road parking at 38 Garden Suburb, Llanidloes, which is annotated on this aerial map. So this is a mid-terrace dwelling which faces onto the B418 County Highway known as Langirig Road. The dwelling does not currently benefit from any parking provision and as such parks vehicles on the highway. I'll pass back to the chair now to introduce speakers.
Thank you very much, Rian. First of our speakers, we only have one speaker on this application, is County Councillor Gareth Morgan, please. County Councillor Gareth Morgan, you have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Right, thank you very much, Chair. It's rare for me to actually call in an application or to appear before an august assembly like this, but I have strong views about this matter, Chair. I think the Highways recommendation is extremely oppressive in this matter, and the report doesn't really give the committee full details of the situation. The whole thing needs to be brought into the real world. What you've got before you at the moment is really half the story. This terrace, as it's referred to, actually faces onto what was the North to South Wales trunk road until the Llanidloes bypass was built a few years ago. So it was very heavily trafficked. There are on this front of this terrace, it's in 2 sections, there are 7 properties. 4 of them have got access, excuse me, directly onto the highway. Another 2 end of terrace ones go into the cul-de-sac of Garden Suburb itself. And there are a number of other properties and establishments with access to them from the road. For example, the largest council house development in Llanidloes, known as Cai Gwyn, has an entrance onto this road. There's another housing estate called Hillfield that has an entrance onto the road. The recreation ground has an entrance onto the road, and a further development known as Bro Dewlas, built by Mid Wales Housing as it then was, a little further up, and built within the last 15 years, also comes onto the road. So it's very urbanized. And what my constituent is asking for is so minimal in the context of the whole thing. One little property wants its access, just as everybody else enjoys, onto the highway. And the background, why is this applicant made this application? Well, the reason is that Powys County Council Highways Department has recently published an draft order to place double yellow lines in front of numbers 37, 38, and 39. So he won't be able to park there. So what does he do? He can't go up into, I don't know how many of you actually acquainted with the area, but into this long cul-de-sac, which is Garden Suburb. That is very congested. So many people parking cars on the road. Really, he would be an unwelcome guest if he wanted to park his car there. So he's got no other alternative other than to grasp the nettle and endeavor to open up his garden and park in it. And something that's been done 1,001 times in many other places. I can think of so many other instances in Llanidloes, particularly on council estates, when owners have purchased their houses, that's been done. So I think he's been very, very unfairly treated. And I fail to see that there's any serious problem here. The highway is now a B road. It's limited at 20 mile an hour speed. It's got traffic calming on it. There's talk about some pedestrian access adjacent to this. I don't know what they're talking about, because there is no footway on the other side of the road. But on the other side of the road, there's a footpath going through the school grounds, which is a registered public footpath. Right. So the pedestrians won't be using it. Access to the schools is in a different way. It hasn't got to interfere with it at all. I see no risks whatsoever. And I urge the committee to take a realistic approach to this. And quite frankly, I've advised the applicant that if you turn it down, then he must appeal. Common sense must surely prevail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, County Councillor Gareth Morgan. I'll hand back now to Rian to take us to her conclusion. Up to you, Rian, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this slide shows photos of the site looking up and down the road, looking left and looking right. These photos are taken while standing on the pavement immediately outside the property. The current boundary hedges that are in place at the site can be seen in these photos, as well as the two neighbouring properties either side, which also have hedges to the front boundary. Whilst the boundary hedges belonging to the applicant are proposed to be removed, the two neighbouring hedges are not. As such, visibility displays at a setback distance of 2.4 metres in accordance with manual for streets cannot be achieved. This has been acknowledged by the applicant themselves within the additional information which they have submitted. Whilst they have proposed a setback distance of 1.7 metres to overcome this, this is not in accordance with guidance and would result in an unsafe access on the road in close proximity to both Llanidloes High School and primary school. This is the primary reason for the Highway Authority objecting to the development today. So this is a photo looking at the site. As you can see, there is an existing dropped curb on the pavement outside of the property, which is the one referred to by Councillor Gareth Morgan. This dropped curb is proposed to be extended to a sufficient width to allow access for a vehicle. This will include the removal of the hedgerows on the boundary site, which currently bounds the curtilage of the property. So this is an image of the block plan submitted by the applicant. The second reason for objection by the Highway Authority is insufficient information to demonstrate that vehicles can enter and exit the site in a forward gear, i.e. there is not enough information to determine that vehicles would be able to turn around within the site. Whilst later information submitted by the applicant states that they are willing to propose a parking area of 12 by 6.6 metres instead of the annotated 6 by 6.6 metres, this has not been reflected on any amended plans and does not confirm that adequate space can be given for simultaneous parking and turning of multiple cars. This final slide shows the location of the public right-of-way near to the site, which Councillor Gareth Morgan also referred to. You will note from my report that Rights-of-Way Department have commented on the application. However, the right-of-way is not within the development site. It is on the other side of the road and indeed the other side of the hedge that's on that side of the road as well. As such, it's not going to be impacted by the development. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rian. I'll hand over now to members for discussion, please. Who would like to start us off? Councillor Gwynfor Thomas, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Rian, could you take us back to the picture of the property? I'm a little bit confused. I just wanted a bit of clarification. Okay, so which is the property? It's the central property there, yeah?
Yes, the central property, so that's a terrace of 3 and it's the middle one.
Okay, so 39 has got a car park by it. How is access granted to for that car park here?
So we cannot find any planning permission for that. As you can see, yes, they do have private parking, which does gain access onto the B road known as Llangirig Road. But as I said, we cannot find any record of planning permission that was being granted for that, and as such, it doesn't form a material consideration.
No problem. Thank you. That clarifies that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Well, as one that's very familiar with this road, uses it very often. The biggest problem historically is people actually, as one of the pictures showed, people parking half on the road and half on that pavement. So I can well understand the challenges faced by residents here. I think the 2 points highways highlight is one, proximity to the schools. The fact is the primary school is the end nearer to, well, on this picture, to the left and nearer to the town, and pupils and things don't actually pass these houses. They go from different access. And as to the high school, most of them come on buses, which will pass right by these houses, but otherwise access the public footpath as the local member has stated earlier. So the concerns highlighted there by highways, I think, are overplayed. Personally, I think it's a common sense attempt by the resident to overcome a problem that would assist all users of that road. And I think some common sense needs to prevail. And I would suggest that and recommend actually that the application is approved, subject to having the necessary amended plans confirming the ability to turn around within the space as highways have identified. Thank you.
Councillor Elwyn. Councillor Gareth Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got a great deal of sympathy with the applicant here. It's a completely different world that we live in today to when I imagine this house was built. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask, very similar to what Councillor Vaughan just said. If the applicant could demonstrate that they could have a turning space within their curtilage, and if they were willing to speak to their neighbours and get the hedge moved back so that they can improve their visibility display, would the highways take a different approach? And also on the top of page 14, it states that while the application site is within a 20-mile-per-hour zone, it's not classed as slow speed. So I'd just be intrigued to know what is classed as slow speed. I think, Chair, this does highlight as well some of the poorer applications that are coming before us, that this possibly could have been dealt with a little bit more back and forth between the agent and the planning authority, so that this issue could be addressed and worked out in a matter that would please everyone. So if I could have a response to those three questions, I'd be grateful. Diolch.
Okay, we'll go over to Simon Crew from Highways. Simon, if you'd like to answer those questions, please.
Thank you, Chair. During the course of the application, we did request revised drawings which showed visibility displays in accordance with manual for streets, and likewise details that the applicant could turn within the site. The applicant did submit a revised drawing which proposed visibility displays at a 1.7 metre setback. So both manual for streets, being a nationwide document, and TANI Welsh Government guidance, both state that the setback for the visibility should be on a 2.4 metre setback. So that roughly from the front of the vehicle to the driver's eye. The applicant unfortunately didn't want to do so because that would involve the setback of both his hedge and the neighbour's hedge. But yes, certainly if the applicant came forward with a proposal which demonstrated they could turn within the site and the visibility display would be compliant with manual for streets, then yeah, we would look more favourably for definite.
Okay. I think that answers your question, Vice Chair.
And the 20-mile-an-hour zone, slow speed?
Sorry, so manual for streets doesn't state exactly what slow speed is, but it does talk about higher speeds at being above 20 miles an hour. So we generally take a view that speeds of somewhere in the region of 10 mile an hour are considered as slow speed. The other part of the guidance, so both in TAN 18 and in manual for streets, says that and it's in relation to a 2 metre setback rather than 2.4, is that it's got to be slow speed and very lightly trafficked. So very lightly trafficked would be a residential street, so the likes of the main drag of garden suburb round the corner, or a cul-de-sac, etc. But being on a class 2 and being a main arterial route into Llanidloes wouldn't be considered as being very lightly trafficked.
Does that satisfy your questioning, Vice Chair?
Thank you. Yes, deal.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair. So many of my questions have already been answered. I'm laughing because 20 miles an hour isn't considered a slow speed, and yet it is the speed that we put outside schools. So that just seems slightly ridiculous to me. But what I want, my question, the last question is, what is do the AA or the RAC, or when you take your driving test, there must be a minimum space in which you have to be able to perform a 3-point turn. I know where I did mine when I was learning to drive quite a few years ago, and it was quite a narrow street. So what is the minimum space required?
Simon, if you want to answer that one.
So in relation to standards by the RAC driving tests, etc., we wouldn't consider any of that as guidance or recognised guidance. It's not guidance. It's not Welsh Government guidance. So we have to go by manual for streets, for higher speeds, the design manual for roads and bridges, TAN 18, and we also use case law, so previous appeal decisions and what have you. Generally the minimum space I went behind, so if you look at like a car park, etc., you've got 6 meters behind each bay, but the minimum for a sweat path for a turning circle is 11 meters. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's a little bit contradictory. I think it answers my question. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I think the officer mentioned the proposal is going to have double yellow lines on the road. Could she just indicate whereabouts on one of the slides the double yellow lines are going to be?
That was referred to by Councillor Gareth Morgan, not myself, but I'm not aware. Whether Simon
If you
knows any
could
of that.
get a slide above the street, and Simon, if you wouldn't mind explaining, if you can, where they're likely to go.
Apology, Chair. It's the traffic section who are currently, or my understand, are currently out to consultation with a parking review of Llanidloes town. So it does include the class 2, but where the actual extents are going to be, we don't know, because the consultation hasn't concluded, as far as I'm aware.
Would you say that it would start at probably Caegwyn Junction and make its way up past the high school? Would that be?
I would suggest that Councillor Morgan's probably got a better idea than myself.
Okay.
If he's allowed to come in.
That's probably an unsatisfactory answer. Councillor Gareth, do you have anything you want to follow up with? No?
No, because we don't know.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Corinna Kenyon-Wade, please.
Hello. No, I'm just wondering about the mirrors. Why mirrors can't be used? Because I can see that it's a difficult road because of the slight bend, so it doesn't help, and the hedges too. But mirrors would really solve a problem, perhaps.
Simon.
Mirrors can only be approved by Welsh Government themselves, so a separate application has to be made to the Welsh Government, and they would assess. However, the criteria for mirrors is where there is no other viable option. So in a location such as this, because the hedgerows can be set back, the Welsh Government would take a dim view on that. So it's more in a sort of location like, I don't know if you're aware of Cavan Lane in Llanford, where you get to the bottom of the street and there's a building, there's a house right on the corner, right at the very edge of carriageway, so there's absolutely no visibility to the south whatsoever. In a scenario like that, they're more likely to take a view of approval, but in a situation like this, they wouldn't approve.
Okay. Councillor Corinna, does that answer your question?
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ian McIntosh, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Elwyn Vaughan proposed that we allow this application to go ahead on the condition that sufficient evidence is provided to show that vehicle can be turned around within the curtilage of the property. If that was a request to move, I'd be quite happy to second that. Simple as that. Thank you, Chair.
I'll bring Peter in for a bit of advice on this.
Thank you, Chair. If members were minded to go against officer recommendation, according to the protocol, they've got to articulate the reason for doing so. So I think we need that reason provided. If you wish to vote against that recommendation. Okay, and again, it's the recommendation that we've put to you is based on the development plan and compliance with the policies of the development plan. So it needs to be clear why it's acceptable against the development plan.
Yeah, I would also add to that, Peter, and say that, with all applications, we have to take applications on the evidence that is provided, although that we can see it as a straightforward, in our eyes, way of moving forward. We don't have that evidence in front of us today. So I'd just like to put that into members' heads, I should say, that we've got to decide applications on the evidence in front of us today. Councillor Ian?
Well, yeah, I think my point is, I think officers have indicated that if this was amended to allow for sufficient turn-in space, then it would be allowed. So why can't we, grant permission for this to go ahead as long as that evidence is provided? It just saves having to sort of resubmit, and it's just a common sense approach to me.
I understand where you're coming from, Councillor Ian. I don't want to lead the committee. But normal protocol would dictate if there was additional information that would be required, and for normal applications, there would be a resubmission. So we'd be setting an uncomfortable precedent going forward if we allowed this, because it would be an uncomfortable precedent going forward.
Just to clarify here as well, there's two issues for debate here. There's the insufficient information for the turn-in circle, or so that they can enter and exit the site in forward gear, but there's also the visibility splays. Whilst we're not or the Highways Authority isn't disputing that they possibly could be achieved, the applicant themselves is unwilling to serve notice on the neighbouring properties to request that the neighbouring hedges are set back a sufficient distance to achieve those visibility displays. So whilst we have provided the opportunity for that, it is the applicant that is unwilling to do that.
Okay. Councillor Gareth Jones, Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask, I think there's an overwhelming feeling from members here that we want to work with the residents of Powys to facilitate things like this so that they are able to park. So is deferral an option in inviting the applicant to go away, come back with the evidence that is required by highways so that we could pass it? Is that an option? Or taking on board what you just said, Chair, that we've got to go with the evidence in front of us? I'm guessing that going forward with an approval on the recommendation that they alter their plans isn't the correct way to proceed. So I'm just wondering, should we defer this with the request that they go back and submit the right information, which would include the hedge being moved back? Thank you.
Bring Rian in for a second.
With respect, that's exactly what we as an authority have tried to do. So we have offered them the opportunity to amend their details and address these issues. And as I said before, it's them that are unwilling to do that. So offering the opportunity again, is not going to result in a different change to that.
So I think Vice Chair, the process, they've gone through that process. Okay. Councillor Adrian Jones, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just agreeing with Gareth, really. My main concern is displays, and any application usually insists on them. And if they can't achieve them or unwilling to, I can't see us being able to go forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adrian Jones. Councillor Peter James, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just interested why there is a sort of a drop curb, just a small gated area, and if it is passed, would there be a new white line area for a gated white line put in front of that area, and would that sort out the situation for the entrance, as there's going to be a yellow line put there? I'm just a bit interested how that would get passed.
Okay, bring Simon in for this one.
So the existing drop curb that's there is a pedestrian drop curb. I appreciate that there is no same facility on the opposite side of the carriageway, but it is not a vehicular access. With regard to the WL lines, the WL lines would be continuous. There'd be no break in them for VAs and what have you, as you would have, or as exists everywhere else within the county for a vehicle access. To answer your question?
More or less, yeah, thank you.
Chair, could I just ask, Steve's asked if he could speak as well?
Yes,
okay.
Certainly. Steve Jones, Highways.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, all. I think the main issue here is the Highway Authority are, or they do understand the sort of issues that the homeowner is experiencing here, and will going forward, especially when the double yellows are put in place. But from our point of view, it's quite clear when you attempt to put a vehicular access in that you must accord with the visibility displays that are set out in national policy. And unfortunately, in this instance, they're simply not able to provide those levels of visibility, or they're not willing to negotiate with their neighbours to provide those levels of visibility. And you know, the danger is if we accept a new access here that does not accord with visibility display requirements, we are sort of, I would suggest, setting a very dangerous precedent going forward.
Yes. Yes, I would concur with that. I would suggest that whichever way the committee goes is minded to go on this. We think about what the officers, the information officers have given us today. So I'm looking for I've got a proposer to go one way, but I haven't got a proposer or a seconder for that. So Councillor Ian McIntosh, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think at the beginning of the presentation, also at least the first part, I think the officer did say that the hedges would be removed, but it seems to me now as though that's not necessarily going to be the case, or at least not enough of the hedges to allow for the visibility display. So I think my opinions therefore changed a little bit. If you know, if there isn't going to be enough visibility, regardless of how much turning space is there, then I agree that we would be setting a precedent if this was allowed. So on that basis, I'm more minded to sort of agree with officers, I think. Thank you, Chair.
Is there a proposal to go with officers' recommendation, or you just?
If you want, yep, happy to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Just to clarify on this, the applicant is proposing to remove their own front hedge. So the block plan, it should be on your screen at the moment.
Yes, I can see it, yeah.
So this section of the hedge here is to be removed, but the neighbouring hedges on either side are going to be remaining in place because the applicant does not want to serve notice or request that their neighbours move them.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Ryan. Councillor Hugh Williams, please.
Thank you, Chair. The local councillor has put in such a persuasive argument, and he's made it difficult for me, but for a material planning reason, I am going to second the motion that we go with officer's recommendation. In my view, and it hurts me to go against the local councillor because, well, it's not a material concern. it is not an adequate access onto the road in my view. So I do second the Councillor McIntosh's view reluctantly, but that is the way it is at the minute.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hugh. I think we all feel in that direction, or majority of us do. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Yeah, sorry. So you just said, what was the phrase you were, that the applicant doesn't want to serve notice on his neighbours? So what does that actually mean?
If you are submitting a planning application that crosses into land that is not within your ownership, you have to serve notice on the relevant landowners of your submitting the planning application. The applicant in this case does not want to do that. And indeed, within his supporting statement, he's put it's not reasonable to ask his neighbours to move their hedges back. He doesn't think that such a request would be granted, and it would complicate the whole process to the point of making the proposals unachievable.
Yeah, so to clarify, that serving is just a request. He can't serve a notice to force them to remove their hedge.
No.
So he would just be serving to ask them. So are we to assume that he thinks he'll say no anyway?
Yes.
Right, okay, that does make a difference, doesn't it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Angela. Okay, there are no other members wishing to contribute to the discussion. It has been proposed and seconded to go along with the officer's recommendation, which is one of refusal. Those members wishing to do so, please indicate in the voting slip that will appear momentarily in the chat section. There we go, members. I'm going to click on the link. Yeah, I just it's a load, Carol.
Chair, can I clarify? This is to refuse as officer as yes, it is to go with recommendation. It's a bit.
Yeah, it's to go along with the officer's recommendation, which is one of refusal.
So that means we're going for.
Yes. If you've not been able to vote, members, please indicate and we'll come to you for a verbal. Councillor Corina, welcome to you now, Sarah.
Oh, I just haven't been able to vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Corina, could you indicate which way you're voting on this application, please?
Refuse.
So you're voting for the officer's recommendation, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, Chair. So we've got 13 members present in the meeting. 12 have voted with the officer's recommendation of refusal.
Okay.
None against and 1 abstention.
Thank you very much, Carol. That meets with the officer's recommendation. On to our next application. Yeah, okay, we will do that. Councillor Adrian?
Yeah.
Would you like to leave the chamber?
The chair, I'll just bring councillor Jill Kibble in, who's online. She's the chair of Montgomery Town Council.
Councillor Jill Kibble? Councillor Jill Kibble?
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Councillor Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carl Lewis. I'm the chairman of this committee.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Lewis.
We're just getting everyone into the meeting. We'll begin. What will happen is the planning officer will outline the application and then hand over to me to go through the speakers. You are the second speaker after County Councillor Jeremy Bringle Thor. So just hang tight there. If you would like to mute your microphone for the time being.
Will do, Councillor Lewis.
Okay. Right. On to the second application, which is 22/1268/FUL, full conversion of brewery and visitor centre into one residential unit and associated works, the Cottage Inn, Fordham Road, Montgomery. Taking us through this application is Luke Wozenham. Over to you, Luke.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, members. I hope everyone has seen the update report. Just a note really, Chair, that following a review of the planning history of the cottage, its most recent use has been for a microbrewery and visitor centre. However, that was never granted any planning permission in 2015. Therefore, we can only grant permission from its last known approved use, which was as a public house. So that has therefore been changed.
Thank you.
Just to put the site into context, it's within the Montgomery Community Council area. The red star shows where the application site is. The yellow star shows where the town hall is within the town square. The furthest orange star is the Crown Inn, which is a public house. And the orange star to the west is the Dragon Hotel. Next slide shows the conservation area of Montgomery. The site is just within it. It's also within the Montgomery development boundary. This shows the application site boundary, which the applicant owns everything within the red line except the visibility display. This shows the existing site layout with the parking and turning area outside the front. And then this shows the proposed site layout with a new driveway, new planting, landscaping and new hedging. This shows the existing ground floor plan. Hopefully you can all see really on this. It shows from entering the front of the property, there's a tasting and bar area. And then towards the back, there is a microbrewery area and visitor centre as well. The existing first and second floor is currently used for residential purposes. And the proposed floor plan there shows that the ground floor will be changed into a conservatory area, lounge, living area, kitchen, breakfast area, snug and drawing room. I now pass back to the chair for the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luke. We have a number of speakers on this application, first of which is County Councillor Jeremy Bringle Thorpe, the local member. Councillor Jeremy, you have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Right, I oppose this application for change of use of the cottage on the grounds that not sufficient attempt has been made to find a buyer for it as a licensed premises. The property was bought by the present owner in September 21. Prior to this, it had been operating as a pub and visitor centre for a brewery. The owners wished to concentrate on their brewery operations and sold the site to allow them to move to a larger site to concentrate on the brewery, which is still operating successfully. The visitor centre had been popular and profitable up to the point it was sold. On being purchased in September 21 for £237,000, the new owner closed the pub and put it up for sale for £400,000. Now we know most of the rural pubs in Powys would be far more valuable as housing than as a hospitality venue, and this new owner is trying to exploit this. Regarding the marketing, I myself made an inquiry before I was aware of this application in July 2022, wearing a completely different hat when I was looking speculatively for property that could be used as a day centre in town. I phoned the estate agent to ask for a viewing. I was told that there were works going on at that moment, but they would get back to me when it was safe to visit. I had nothing after a week, so phoned again to be told the same story and never heard from them again. I had noticed that the site was being advertised as holiday let, so phoned the owner to ask if the property was still up for sale or had he decided to keep it for other purposes. And the response was to decline comment and to say I should contact the agent. Is that the likely reaction of someone seriously trying to find a buyer for their property? I've spoken to 2 other people that made inquiries about the property, but they also had no response to their inquiry. If my inquiry is not mentioned in the marketing report, how many other inquiries have they not recorded and not followed up? I reported these facts of my own request of view with evidence to the planning officer, and the only response I got was they, Roger Parry, are adamant regarding the inquiry and the numbers. This is an example how full of holes this whole application assessment has been. The applicant has supposedly asked Morris Marshall and Poole to do a valuation of the property, and MMP came up with the letter in your pack, which the officer has referred to as an accurate third-party valuation. Nowhere in this letter does the word value or valuation appear. The phrase it mentions is, I would recommend you market the property in the region of ... I have asked Morris Marshall and Poole whether this letter does constitute a valuation, and their reply was, the document referred to is a market appraisal, not a formal red book valuation. So it is not a valuation. I am very surprised that the planning officer had referred to this as a valuation when the document is not and makes no claim to be so. Jonathan Edwards from Camera has said, I cannot find any evidence that the cottage has been advertised on any dedicated licensed property specialist website during the time it was offered for sale. Examples are Sidney Phillips and Fleuretts and Christie's. I conclude the cottage has not been robustly marketed and recommend this application is rejected until at least the market has been fairly tested over a reasonable period of time by licensed property specialists, such as those above. For those who don't know Montgomery, we are on a steep hill. At the top of the hill is Broad Street and most of the businesses, including one other pub and a hotel. A large part of the housing is at the bottom of the town, where the cottage is located, and from there it is a steep walk up to the other places to eat and drink. There is a new housing estate of 33 houses being built at the bottom of the town, close to the cottage. Once this pub is lost, it will never be converted back. If this pub disappears, it's unlikely that the bottom end of town will ever again have a pub or eating venue in easy walking distance. Hospitality is going through a tough time now, and I don't dispute that, but this will not be permanent. When the economy recovers, people will want to go out to eat and drink again. It will be sad if when this happens, we find that all the pubs have gone and cannot be brought back again. There has been massive public support in Montgomery in favour of keeping this as a pub. There is a very active public group on Facebook with 347 followers. And following the publication of the County Times article about this case last week, we launched a fundraiser to allow us to pay for a proper assessment of the value from sector specialist Sidney Phillips that my colleague will refer to following this. And we raised £500 from local residents within 12 hours of launching the fundraiser on Facebook to pay for this. Thank you. This route to obtain change of use is intended as a last resort in the case of a pub that would otherwise remain empty. This is very far from the case in this situation. We are asking that in the light of the failure to offer viewings, the plain factual inaccuracy of the marketing report from Roger Parry, the inflated asking price, and the failure to use an agent that specializes in licensed premises, that the property should be re-advertised for a further 6 months using a specialist licensed premises agent. If the owner does not get any credible offers, then we will accept that it would be reasonable for this application to be resubmitted. But until that is the case, we strongly oppose this application.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jeremy Brignall-Thorpe. Our next speaker is Jill Kibble, Chair of Montgomery Town Council, and Councillor Jill is on the line. Councillor Jill, you have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Planning Committee. This proposal has caused considerable concern in the town, and that has been very underrepresented in the officer's report. The proposal has not been carried out in accordance with the requirements of planning or the local development plan. The building alterations themselves do not impact on the exterior of the 18th century building. However, the interior work of conversion to a residential property has been carried out in its entirety. So this is technically a retrospective application, which may not even conform to building regulations. A new roof light window has also been installed without consent, despite the cottage being prominent within the Montgomery Conservation Area and proximate to the Town Wall Schedule Monument. The Town Council apprised Powys Planning Authority of all these works as they were being carried out. Our primary concern lies with the change of use to this important and popular community facility and the misrepresentations evidenced in the planning statement, which we briefly enumerate with reference to DM11 and DM16 of the current LDP. The cottage has been an eating or drinking establishment since it was constructed as a coaching inn in 1746. When sold, it was first and foremost a licensed public house. The term visitor centre referred to the microbrewery, which was used for trials, demonstrations, and special brews only. The main brewery has always been separate and in Hendomen. Monty's are a renowned multi-award-winning real ale brewery. The trading hours fitted with the demands of the brewery and their strong UK and international market. The hours also offered refreshment when other establishments in town were closed, and they were designed to be good neighbours to the nearby residents. DM11 requires alternative community provision to be identified, but there has been no discussion with community, no discussion with the town council, and we are aware that commercial proposals to the owners have been simply ignored. At a sensible price, there could well have been interest in community ownership, a partnership, or growth zone funding sought. The cottage itself was a visitor attraction and hosted many events in the Montgomery calendar. It has been widely publicised by Visit Wales, on television, visitor magazines, including a series promoting walking on Offansdyke National Park. All this has brought economic benefit to other businesses in town as well. The cottage was a thriving, popular business. The business was open until the day of sale in September 2021. In contravention of DM16, marketing was extraordinarily low-key and predominantly as a residential property. It is no longer on the market, but now advertised and used as self-catering accommodation, all without change of use consent. The sale price was unrealistic for a public house at some 150,000 above the September 2021 valuation and well above that of similar commercial establishments. The high quality bar installed by the previous owners was removed, leaving no workable area for commercial purposes. This would obviously deter prospective customers and demonstrates the paucity of intention to either run or sell the property as a hospitality business. Local facilities are well supported by residents, and there is a thriving tourism economy, which the Town Council have made strenuous and successful efforts to grow over the last 10 years. Montgomery is a town for all seasons, with regular events, much supported by the cottage and a steady stream of discerning visitors, many who return time and again. Tourist income is critical to our economy, but visitors want a good selection of places where they can eat and drink. If facilities are not available, visitors will simply take business elsewhere. A recent community survey received over 150 responses that more and a greater variety of places to eat and drink were needed. Visitors and event organisers such as the Montgomery Literary Festival and Walkers Welcome all reinforce this view. This building has provided employment for over 275 years. Closure resulted in loss of local jobs for local people and loss of an important outlet for local produce. In conclusion, there is an unequivocal demand for additional eating and drinking hospitality businesses in Montgomery. This application meets none of the requirements for change of use from community to residential, and we would respectfully ask Planning Committee to recommend refusal until there has been 6 months of robust commercial marketing and exploration of all the alternatives as a community facility. Thank you very much, Planning Committee and Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jill Kibble. On to our next speaker, which is Mr. Kevin Williams, please. Objector. Mr. Kevin Williams, you again have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Right. Okay, thank you very much and good morning, everyone. I represent the action group that was set up in objection to the application, and it saddens us and it's very concerning that the applicant is just run roughshod over the town and yourselves. Is already carried out and completed all of the work. This is evidenced by the fact the property is currently being advertised in holiday let websites. The literature of some of the advertisements, and I'm quoting from this, says originally a public house, originally comfortable accommodation while retaining the charm of a country inn, retaining the charm. The pub itself is on the ground floor. We know he's carried out the refurbishment ups on the first floor. I spoke to the planning officer about this, complaining that all of these alterations are going on. The planning officer hasn't even visited to inspect the interior of the building. He said, I've been once, but there was no one there, so I couldn't get in. I said, well, why don't you try again and make a phone call to make an appointment and go in and have a look at the place? The bar's been ripped out. There's all of this going on. So in the literature, it says ground floor, which is the pub, open living space, living area with wood burner and a smart TV dining area. So the big question the action group have got is, how has Mr. Broxton been given the confidence to forge ahead with all of this work without any planning permission? And there's a hypothesis in town, is, oh, we know the answer to that. He's got friends in high places in the council. Don't know if that's true, that's speculative, but that seems to be a general opinion. But I'm a relative newcomer to the town. I've only been there 6 years. In fact, I moved into the town. One of the benefits was the pub. I only live around the corner from it. I started to use the pub immediately. And after a few weeks of going in there, I realized the place is more than just a pub. It's a hub or a haven, if you want, for residents. And it was a destination for visitors to aim for. It's very family friendly in the pub. The unique thing about it, which the photographs can tell, it's got a great car park facility. Some might see that as housing development, but we see that as an attraction for visitors coming into the town. A lot of visitors aim to park up at the cottage when they visit the town, because there's no parking up in the top of the town. It's a Georgian town, wasn't built for vehicles. It gets very, very congested up there. So people head down to the cottage to park. It's got a great beer garden, a grassed beer garden, enjoyed by families in the summer. There's events that takes place there. Even on the car park, there's vintage rallies, there's beer festivals. Sometimes there's little boot sales. It's serving the community. It's a very, very popular place with a lot of assets. I mentioned visitors drive there. They go walking up the hills, but then when they come back, they come into the pub, they meet the locals. There's great friendships being made. Locals tell them about other places. Have you been to so-and-so? Oh, no, I haven't tried that. Next time. So, okay. So it's a great place to be. I've only got a minute. I had a lot more to say, but I just want to read out some comments of some of the locals. Mr. Jones is 83 years old, is a widower, lives in Station Road. He says, this place is a tonic to me. It's somewhere to go, stretch my legs to get out of the house for an hour or two. There's always someone I can chat to help pass the time of day. Mr. Williams, 76, also a widower. This has been my local for the past 53 years. It's a very special place. I've seen some changes over the years, but none as bad as this. It's not the same without it. And Mrs. Thomas, she's a widow, lives by me in Arthur's Gate. She said, I first started coming to the pub with Ernie, her husband, over 30 years ago. Although he's gone now, I still come in, sometimes with a little dog, Freddie, because it's a dog-friendly pub, on my own. It's safe in there. Over a wine or two, I can reminisce in all the happy memories we had in there. It bucks me up. I close my eyes and sometimes I feel that he's sitting there with me. Thank you. I've just got one more if I can.
I'll allow you to read
a second.
them.
And Mr. Richards from Cannock is a visitor. He says, me and the wife visit Montgomery each year and make the cottage our base to walk up to Bunners and the castle to see the great views. We end up with refreshments in the pub, have made great friends with some of the locals. This is one of the reasons we keep on coming back, just to see how they are and to touch base. It's one of the jewels in the Montgomery crown. How on earth has it got to this? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin Williams. The next speaker is Ms. Leslie Williams, please. Again, objector. Leslie Williams, you have 5 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
I just want to very quickly say that the comments from Kevin probably show that the pub was well used. It wasn't sold on because it was a dying concern. It was sold on for personal reasons. But my main purpose here, I'd like to refer back to and expand on my colleagues' earlier comments regarding concerns over the marketing of the property, not least of which the inflated asking price and evidence of leads not followed up, to the extent that we as a community paid for a sector specialist assessment of the property by respected agent Sydney Phillips. I'd like to read the response from Sydney Phillips, but I'd also like to add here that I was one of those interested parties who had sought to view the property and was unable to get a viewing in its original state. This is the letter from Sydney Phillips. You have requested of our involvement with the above. Sorry, I'll start again. You have requested details of our involvement with the above in the early part of 2021 and to provide a general overview of subsequent market conditions. As you are aware, Sydney Phillips is a national company specialising in the sale and valuation of pubs and other licensed premises throughout the UK. We are confident that no other estate agents or surveyors would deal nationally with a greater number of sales of individual licensed properties. I have worked at Sydney Phillips since 1986 and during that period have always specialised in the sale and leasing of public houses throughout the West Midlands and Wales. These recommendations are being provided under the supervision of my colleague, the Executive Chairman of Sydney Phillips, John Williams, FRICS, who is our registered valuer. John has been valuing licensed premises since 1963. In early 21, I was contacted by the then freehold owner of the Cottage Inn, who were considering a sale. They requested that I visit them to provide advice. They had been operating the pub since 2015. I met with the owner on the 3rd of March 21 when I had an opportunity to fully inspect the property. We discussed market trends and the valuation of the business. We also discussed at some length the possibility of the property being let on a short to medium term lease to an independent operator. The property was very well presented and appeared to be in immaculate condition throughout. The meeting was concluded with it being agreed I should prepare marketing literature quoting an agreed asking price of $265,000 for the freehold, with an alternative for an applicant to acquire a new 6-year lease. Paperwork was sent over to the owner the following day on the 4th of March. Discussions continued for the next 2 to 3 weeks, concluding with our clients deciding to delay the business being placed on the open market. They wished to wait for the end of COVID-19 pandemic lockdown so that they could reopen the business, as they felt this would grant them a better chance of finding a purchaser. At the time of my visit, businesses throughout the country were closed due to government restrictions and had been in Wales since the 4th of December 20. They were finally permitted to reopen on the 26th of April 21. However, surprisingly, the sale of such businesses continued at a relatively healthy level, and those which were temporarily closed were still treated as a going concern due to the short-term nature of the closure. The normal level of goodwill would still have been attributed to the business's value, unlike where the business has been ceased trading for other reasons. When contacting the owner after the restrictions in Wales were lifted, I was advised that they had been approached by a local party to whom they had agreed a sale, and therefore Sidney Phillips' services would not be required, as there was no need for the business to be placed on the market. We have subsequently been advised that the sale price was $237,000. I understand upon acquiring the business in July 21 that the purchaser shortly placed it for sale on the open market for an asking price of $400,000. We are advised that no material interest has been forthcoming for the property as a public house. This is not surprising given the asking price. We have been asked to comment on the appointment of Morris, Marshall and Poole to provide a marketing appraisal and Roger Parry & Co to offer the Cottage Inn for sale, both local firms. During my tenure at Sidney Phillips, we have had many dealings with Morris, Marshall and Poole, and I consider they are a company in which we hold the highest respect. They are always professional and courteous to deal with. Nevertheless, given that the majority of licensed premises are acquired by people outside the local catchment area, it is normal for the sale and valuation of public houses and similar businesses to be dealt with by national specialists, of whom there are several. Since the spring of 2021, market conditions have improved, and despite many challenges to the hospitality industry, most notably increased utility and staffing costs, we have seen a good number of such businesses being sold and relatively healthy sale prices achieved. I estimate that the prices for licensed businesses over the last 2 years will have increased by circa 10%. Yours sincerely, Robin Mentz of Sidney Phillips, under the supervision of John Williams, Fellow of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, Executive Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leslie Williams. That concludes our objectors. Next two speakers are Gerald Davis, the agent, acting on behalf of Mr. Broxton, and Mr. Broxton, the applicant. You both have a combined time of 10 minutes, 5 minutes each from the objectors. It's up to you how you split that time. Yes, you can, yes. Okay, gentlemen, you have 10 minutes and you may begin when you're ready.
Okay, good morning all. I'm not going to elaborate and carry on for ages. I'm just going to tell you the facts as it happened. It came out in conversation with the owners of Monty's Brewery that they were going to sell the cottage. I had lengthy discussions with the owners, as they suggested they needed money to invest into their existing brewery business. After a protracted time, we came up with a figure which was accepted. The price I offered them, because the brewery was in, the building was in a poor condition. It was advantageous for them as there was no agent's commission to be paid. And the view at that time was for my eldest daughter, Kate, and her husband were going to run the business under their pizza business, Nomadic Pizzas. Since the purchase, time went on, it became apparent that reliable staff were difficult to get hold of, inflated cost of staff, raw goods were going up through the roof, electricity, gas, and the fitting out costs increased substantially because the whole place had to be fitted out to a high standard. Eventually, it stacked up that the business was going to be totally unviable in the current position. So they pulled out and concentrated on their other business. This left me with the premises. I'm at an age I don't want to run a pub, so I instructed an agent to put it on the market and to get the best. I'm a businessman, the best price that they could get, and that's what happened. When it was up for sale through the agent, as Mr. Jeremy Thorpe rightly said, he came to me and he rang me up out of the blue one day and he said he was interested in buying the property himself to be run as an old people's home. That was the version I got. And I said, well, it's no good talking to me, it's with the agent. You ring the agent. This he did, and it's been recorded and logged in the Shrewsbury office. We did never receive a trading books from the cottage, even though asked. We were told that this the cottage business was tied up with the brewery. Now, I've been accused of doing work on the cottage, and I have to admit we have been doing work on the cottage. The large chimneys, who know the area, were in a very, very bad condition and were liable to fall down, and one particularly onto the highway. The chimneys have been taken down and rebuilt, and external repairs and repainting done. Internally, replacement bathroom, total rewiring as the existing wiring was condemned. To deal with damp and penetrating damp, replastering of collapsing ceilings to the first floors, and the bar has not been removed. The bar is still in position. In April 2009, it was an Indian restaurant takeaway. March 2015, Monty's bought it for their visitor center and their microbrewery. We took over the property in September 2001. And I will finish on that note, and Mr. Carl Davis will take over. Okay.
Bore da cynghorwyr. The officer's report sets out the basis of the application and the principal considerations well. This is based on factual evidence and due consideration by the Planning Department and consultees over a number of months. And it's a firm recommendation of conditional consent. As you've already heard this morning, the Town Council and County Councillor object to this application, and they have instigated a strong media campaign to draw up objections to this application since last August, which included creating groups on social media platforms, writing to the press to object, and most recently, the councillor has instigated a financial crowdfunding page and got people to donate money to help object against it. The Town Council have been vociferous in their objection to this, but this application might not have needed to be in front of you today if they fully supported the previous business at the cottage. In 2019, Monty's Brewery, the previous owner, submitted an application to extend the cottage to allow for Monty's Brewery to stay in the cottage. As stated within the 2019 application quoted, The main brewery and head office are currently based in an industrial building down in Haindomen, with a microbrewery and visitor centre based at the cottage in Montgomery. Having two sites isn't sustainable, with movements coming to and from each other on a daily basis. By extending the property, this would allow Monty's Brewery to brew up in the cottage and use it as a visitor centre as one. Without this extension, they would have to choose to keep the brewery down in Haindomen. However, in submitting the application, instead of supporting the scheme wholeheartedly, the Town Council raised fundamental concerns to the proposal, which included drainage, albeit the extension was built on a tarmac parking area. They said the parking for staff could be limited due to lack of space, as confirmed by the Town Council and the objectors to date. There's ample parking space. Impact on the town wall and ancient monument and conservation area. The extension was not close at all to the town wall. And then the access onto the Fordon Road is dangerous, although it is an existing visitor centre. And last but not least, and again, quoted straight from their response in 2019, they were concerned that the hours of operation of the brewery, because this is a residential area. For them to state that they were concerned with the hours of operation of a brewery because it's within a residential area, but now they are saying they need a pub there because it's in a residential area. The mind boggles. So it's hard for us to see the Town Council wholeheartedly objecting to this change of use, when actually 4 years ago, when a local business was trying to make it work, they objected to that. As confirmed by Mr. Broxton, the timeline of the property is as follows. In 2009, it was purchased as an Indian restaurant and takeaway until 2015, when Monty's Brewery and Visitor Centre took over, which from a planning perspective, as confirmed by Luke this morning, is not an A3 class use. Monty's Brewery opening times were 12 o'clock until 6 p.m. on Tuesday till Thursday, 12 o'clock till 7 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, and then closed on Sunday and Monday. Well, it's hard to believe that that is a regular pub, because any full-time person would struggle to attend a pub just on a Saturday. In terms of marketing, the property was marketed as a commercial property and not as a residential property as stated in the objections. We, as Roger Parry's, sell commercial property and we market on Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, Shropshire Star, County Times. All these marketing are more than Sydney Phillips provide. The value has been justified by a qualified valuer using direct comparables and reaffirmed by another independent qualified valuer of another estate agency. The valuation by Morris Marshall & Poole is a valuation. And in terms of Sydney Phillips, they have recently sold the Aleppo in Carnal as for 450,000. It is acknowledged that the Aleppo is slightly bigger than the cottage, but Montgomery is known to have a higher priced property than Carnal, and therefore the valuation at 400,000 is more than justified. Again, we are commercial property as estate agents, and we have fully marketed this. In terms of viewings, 3 viewings took place, and therefore we are unclear of the statements regarding refused viewings. No evidence has been submitted to the council or us that requests for viewings were refused. It's all part of hearsay when people write on social media saying, I tried to view it, but it was refused. In relation to Councillor Thorpe's statement about his viewing request, I confirmed with the valuer who was selling this property, and his request was he was interested in the property to change it to a residential care home. So as a valuer, he pointed out, well, that's going to be a struggle because we are selling it as a pub. It is argued in the objections that offers were made for the property. 100%, no offer has been made to purchase or rent this property to the estate agent or owner. Of course, we acknowledge that no one wants a pub to close in their town or village, but as illustrated previously, society changes, cost of living crisis, the cost of running establishments has gone through the roof. The cottage was marketed for over 6 months and no interest was shown to run it as a pub restaurant.
If you could wrap up.
Yeah. The committee report illustrates that the proposal to convert this property is fully in accordance with planning policy, and this is based on factual evidence. Therefore, I hope councillors will go with officer recognition and approve this application today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerald Davis and Mr. Broxton. That concludes our speakers on this application. I'll hand over now back to Luke to take us to his recommendation, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, speakers. Just a note, really, councillors, that this application, at the time of writing this report, we received 86 letters, 85 of which were objections and 1 was in support. Right, the principle of the development. So this has been considered against DM11, which is protection of existing community facilities and services. Policy DM11 of the Paris LDP states that the loss of the following existing community facilities and services will only be permitted in respect of an existing community or indoor recreation facility where it can be demonstrated that appropriate alternative provision is to be made available, or the potential for continued use is no longer viable. An alternative solution to support the long-term use of the facility for the community have been adequately explored. Proposals promoting alternative uses of existing public houses or other services will be required to demonstrate that the premises have been actively marketed for a minimum of 6 months, and that genuine efforts to sell or let the property over that period have been unsuccessful. Evidence of active marketing of the property should include details of the sales literature, advertisement campaign, and buyer interest over the period. As part of the application, the agent has submitted evidence of active marketing of the property. The evidence submitted includes details of the sales literature, advertisement campaign, and buyer interest over that period. Let's try and get the next slide. This is a copy of the sales particulars from the cottage. I'll just go through the slides. It has been listed as a public house, visitor centre, restaurant and brewery for offers in excess of 400,000. The property was marketed freehold for 7 months, which commenced on the 10th of December 2021 until the 22nd of July 2022 for offers over 400,000. Evidence submitted demonstrates that the property has been extensively marketed. During the marketing campaign, 3 official viewings have been made with no follow-up offers. It is acknowledged that objections have been raised in regards to the price of the property, which has been marketed for. Following this, the local planning authority, received further information from the agent to confirm an independent third-party valuation had been undertaken, which confirmed a value of 400,000 to be accurate. These are further photos of the condition of the cottage at the time of listing. Next, I'd just like to show you a couple of bits from the marketing statement. This is showing comparable properties, public houses for sale on the market and their prices. First one is, I think it's in Lanson Fried, for 695,000. If we go through, further ones in Knighton, Llandinham and in Sarn. This is a copy of the letter from MMP, which has been confirmed as a marketing appraisal. Marketing appraisal is a potential guide price of the property, and they've confirmed 400,000, which we believe is to be accurate. Officers are satisfied, based on the evidence submitted, that the property has been robustly marketed at an appropriate price in respect of criteria 2II, given the period of time in which the property has been marketed and the limited interest shown in the property to date, it is considered that opportunity has been given for alternative solutions to support the long-term economy viability of the business to be explored and come forward. It is noted that prior to the marketing undertaken, the property was vacant for a couple of years. In light of the above, it is considered that the development is in accordance with policy DM11. Just a couple of plans, readers, to show you. This is the existing elevations of the property from the front and the side view from the road. This is the back of the property on the left, and then another side elevation really there on the right. From the plans proposed, there are no external alterations. On screen now, you can see areas patched in blue. These are scheduled ancient monuments, the closest being the town bank and ditches scheduled ancient monument. Just like to confirm that CADU and CPAT have been consulted on this application and confirm that they do not object. I mean, this is on the basis that there are no changes proposed to the appearance of the property. This is another photo I showed you earlier, showing the conservation area. The Built Heritage Officer has been consulted as well on this application and confirms no objection as there are no changes proposed. This is a photo from the front of the cottage, which you saw earlier. The rear. That is at the front, and the road towards Fordham Road. And there we go, the front again. There are no proposed changes to the current entrance. The Paris Highways Authority have been consulted and confirmed no objection, subject to a couple of conditions in relation to parking and the access visibility. In terms of amenity, like I said previously, there are no changes externally, so it is not considered that any properties would be affected by loss of light, loss of privacy, or overshadowing. In terms of biodiversity, there's no works to be affecting the roof, so no survey has been requested. There's no demolition involved either. So that is okay. The comments by the Community Council have been considered on the general public. It is considered that the majority of the comments have been looked at during this report in terms of the valuation of the property, and that has been dealt with in terms of DM 11. Our recommendation, Chair, is one of conditional consent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luke. I'll hand over now to members for discussion. First to indicate they'd like to contribute to discussion is Councillor Elwyn Vaughan, please.
Diolch, Cadeirydd, thank you. Just a couple of questions to the officer, I think, as well. Can you confirm if the marketing of this site was actually done online and not just on paper version? And the second question is regarding to DM11 in particular, which indicates the need to look at alternative solutions for the long-term use of the facility for community has been adequately explored, and same in clause 2. I'm well aware in Pennell, in my area, and in a number of other West Wales communities, the actual local community established enterprises to purchase such facilities to secure their long-term future and viability. Has such an attempt been made in Montgomery with this?
Thank you very much, Councillor Elwyn. It has been marketed online and I believe in papers as well. So that's the first one. The second one, obviously the property has been used most recently as a brewery, like the objections have said, and the agent. It was used then previously as an Indian restaurant, and it hasn't been used for a public house really since prior to 2009. We believe that over the last 10 to 20 years, it's been, you know, businesses have tried there, different businesses have tried. Now they've obviously marketed it, and no one's interested in, you know, in the current circumstances. I've also shown on the first slide, there are other facilities in Montgomery, such as the Crown and the Dragon as well. So we still believe it meets policy.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Les George, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've listened to the debate. Excuse me, my voice, I'm a little bit heavy cold at the moment. I've listened to the debate in detail. I feel the passion for the objectors and for all the local people and also the holidaymakers that have enjoyed their time at the cottage when it was a pub. But I want to make a comment and a statement basically, and that is as a regular to one or two pubs, and I got to say that there is nothing better after a hard working day than to visit your local pub. I am also a businessman, and I look at this at a different light. And that is, at the present time, we have organizations that are national, and one national company are selling as many as 1,000 of their outlets. Another very successful operation is Wetherspoons. They have in the past taken over pubs which are going downhill. They, I believe, are selling a dozen of their establishments. And the fact of the matter is that it is very difficult. This is a very difficult decision here, because how do you demand that someone runs a successful business when a lot of the public houses today are under extreme pressure? If the landlord themselves are very hardworking and have put their heart into it, they're having extreme difficulty in getting staff to work anti-social hours. So I just wanted to make that statement, Chair, with a possible influence to what the decision would be. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Les George. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. And perhaps I could ask the officer to move the slide back to where you showed the internal of the building.
Yes.
Yeah, and the one in respect to the bar itself, that one. Can you just confirm, Luke, that that is the only bar area within the property as you understand it?
My understanding is yes.
Yeah, okay, right. I've got a couple of points to make, Chair. Start with that one. I'm part of a group that bought the 7 Stars in Aberystwyth as a community buyout. I would not want to run a pub with a bar as small as that. It seems to be quite small to me. And I would also suggest that a successful public house now needs to have food as well. And I don't know how that could be accommodated in this property. And if I picked up what you said correctly, Luke, although it's been operating as a brewery with a bar linked to it for the limited time that that is open, it hasn't actually run as a public house since 2009.
Correct.
Thank you. And just one other point of clarification, if I may, Chair. If we were to approve this application today, if somebody came in, say in the next 6 months, and wanted to buy it and run it as a pub, would they then have to resubmit another planning application?
If they wanted to run it as a public house, no, they wouldn't have to apply again.
Even if we approve this?
I'll bring
It
Luke
would-
Jones in.
Oh, if we approve, if we refuse, if we approve this application today and turn it into a one residential unit, as long as the application wasn't fully commenced, no, they wouldn't have to apply.
I'll bring Luke Jones in just for a second.
Yeah, it would depend on whether they implemented this consent today. So if they didn't implement it, then they wouldn't need to come in. But if they did change it to a residential dwelling, then yes, they would need to apply again.
So if you approve today, no work is done for the next 12 months, somebody could still buy it and use it as a pub as well.
Yeah, as long as they didn't implement this consent, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Councillor Gareth E. Jones. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
So Gareth asked some of my questions there, so I'll just extend on what the question Gareth has just asked. So the reason for getting this planning permission now is so that it can be marketed in a different way to a different target market and hopefully sold. Do we know, does the applicant have any plans to actually carry out the work? So to change its use physically and then sell it on?
Yeah, we don't know, and really, that's not really part of the decision. It's up to the applicant what
Right.
they do if we grant.
I'm just wondering if
grant.
the point just made,
Yes,
is that actually a possibility or not?
it's a possibility, but
But we
again,
can't
it's not
consider
a
that.
planning consideration.
Okay, my other question then, has the community made any attempt to run it as a community pub at all?
Move that over to Luke or Peter.
To do that?
Well, I'm not too sure, but I don't think they would be interested in the current value really, what was advertised for at 400,000.
Peter, do you have clarification?
Well, I was just going to say, if they had done so, I think we would have heard this morning that they would have pursued that as an option from within the community. Okay, and I don't think that came through. I didn't hear it.
Right, this is a really difficult one, isn't it? Because the community have talked with passion about wanting to save a facility in their town. And having heard them, I was convinced. I thought I knew how I was going to vote. But then when you hear the other side of the coin, and I lived in a pub, as Luke knows, my family ran a pub, a community pub that was the hub of the centre. But that was a long time ago. And as Councillor Les said, times have changed, haven't they? And it's very difficult if you're a business owner. How do you generate the money in the current climate? This is a really challenging one. Thank you, Chair.
It is, that's why it's here.
Chair, can we speak or not?
No, you can't, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, I'm looking for direction from the committee. We haven't had a proposal or seconder to go anywhere. Councillor Karina Kenyon-Wade, please.
Just thinking, it was marketed during the COVID pandemic when things having a pub was even less attractive than it was now. I don't understand the mechanism by which you can have another 6 months, but I'm minded to consider it as Councillor Jeremy asked for, another 6 months on a commercial basis.
Yeah, just in accordance with policy DM 11, it clearly states that the marketing needs to be undertaken for 6 months, and therefore, from the evidence they've submitted, it does comply with that. So there's no requirement for them to do additional marketing in terms of policy.
But you know, the other presentation was that they didn't use a specialist camera approved agent.
I'll come back if I may, Chair. We're looking to see whether they comply with the policy as written in the local development plan. That doesn't specify whether you go and use a particular agent. It's looking to show and demonstrate that marketing's been done adequately. And our view as officers is that it has been. Okay. I think clearly it's open to the owner to decide who he markets with. We wouldn't get involved in their choice or selection around that. So I think we've heard this morning that it's been marketed widely, and Luke's presentation demonstrate that as well.
Or just to add to that, sorry, following concerns raised regarding the valuation, we did ask as a planning authority for an additional valuation to be undertaken, which, as you know, was undertaken by Morris Marshall.
Okay. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Yeah, just for clarification, Chair. Am I right in understanding that that there's different rules around the proposed change of use for a pub in England to Wales? That if you're in England, you've got to undertake it or not?
I'd have to double check for you. I know there is another system out there around community assets, which is we don't have in Wales. So again, it hasn't got a great bearing really on the determination of this, but I think there are probably some differences across the border.
Yeah, I think there's something about if it's the only amenity in that location. I think there's some sort of protection around it. In Wales, we don't have that.
Yeah, I'm happy to move that we support the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Les George, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was also going to go with the offered recommendation, but I will support Gareth's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Les George. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
Yeah, can I just check up on the statements made about the internal refurbishment? So it was implied that planning permission rules or regulations have been broken there. So would the owner require planning permission for internal refurbishment of the upstairs?
The property isn't listed, so the works inside wouldn't require planning permission.
And there would be then no requirement to inspect those?
No, obviously we've heard today, and I have dealt with an enforcement case on the property in regards to the property being put on the market, well, rented out for Airbnb purposes. You'd be allowed to do that without gaining planning permission either. You'd be allowed to rent out your own property for that purpose as well.
No rules have been broken as far as I'm aware. And a little delicate, but accusations were made about you as a planning officer having not visited the property when you should have done. Was there a period at which that property should have been visited for any reason?
Yeah, it sounds like I haven't spoken to Luke directly about that, but he's attempted to visit. I think inspecting the interior isn't really relevant to us here. It's about the change of use of that ground floor that's key. We have protocols that we need to comply with. If anybody has a conflict of interest, we have to declare those. I think given some of that local talk, that was one of the reasons why we reported it to this committee. So everything is entirely out in the open. So that was my decision here, that we reported this to committee. So there is nothing being hidden. Okay.
Thank you. That's good to have that clarified, because that's unfair. An accusation that hasn't been sort of responded to, isn't it?
I'll just add to that, just to you, Luke, any enforcement case that you've taken up with that property has now been finalised and finished, yes?
Yes, it has been closed, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And my last comment, sorry, Chair, I hadn't quite finished. I just want to say that personally, I feel really strongly against the changing of a business premises into a domestic premises. I can understand if it were my village, I'd probably be campaigning to keep this as a business premises. However, how do we force somebody to run a business where they cannot make profit? You know, that's what business is for, isn't it? We can't force somebody to do that. And if, as I think you have provided evidence of a fair valuation, and I think you have provided evidence of a fair marketing campaign. You can't sell something to somebody that doesn't want to buy it.
Indeed.
It's very, very sad, but yeah, thank you. I think you've answered my questions.
Thank you. Councillor Ian McIntosh, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think like previous speakers at the beginning of when the first speakers started speaking, I was starting to form an opinion that, you know, we should keep it as a pub. But I think as the debate's gone on, I'll be supporting officers' recommendations now. But I just wanted to take the opportunity really to to sort of leave a comment, and that is that with sort of pubs like this in general, we've got to use them or lose them, basically. I know, but not only use them and lose them, but support them wider than that with our sort of community and town councils as well. I want to take note that the town council didn't support some alterations that were proposed for this pub previously, and perhaps if that had have happened, we wouldn't be here now. But no, I think, you know, it's important that in order to prevent this happening further, we've got to support these pubs. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ian McIntosh. I echo your sentiments there with regarding supporting rural pubs. Got one myself in my village now for sale. Councillor Gareth Jones, Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Angela and Councillor Ian have summed it up very well in the last two comments. None of us want to see a rural business, rural pub close in our own towns, communities. They are so vital to keep our communities vibrant. But I think that the applicant and his agent have put forward a very strong case. And I think you've had a proposal second, if I'm correct. And I think we should go to the vote on this. If you haven't, I'd be happy to propose or second. So it's with regret, but yeah, deal.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. It has been proposed and duly seconded. So as you rightly say, there are no other speakers, so I'll put it to the vote. It has been proposed and duly seconded to go along with officer's recommendation, which is one of conditional consent as laid out in the update. Those members wishing to go along with that, please indicate on the voting slip that will appear momentarily in the chat. Thank you. While we're waiting for that to load, members, is it your wish that we stop for a comfort break after this, after the result? Yes? Okay. Okay, members, it's there in the chat. If you'd like to click on it in the usual manner. If you have not been able to submit your vote, please indicate and we'll come to you for a verbal. Councillor Corina.
Abstain, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Chair, thank you very much. So 12 members in the room to vote. So there are 11 members voting in accordance with the officer's recommendation. That's for the application. No members against and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you, Carol. That meets with officer's recommendation. It is now 10 to 12. If we could be back here for, let's say, 12 o'clock, that's a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you. Don't leave the meeting, members at home. Just dip your laptops, just mute and stop the video. Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome back everyone to this planning, taxi licensing and rights of way committee meeting. Once again, I am Carl Lewis and have the pleasure of chairing the last application for today. So the last application is 22/, sorry, we need to do a roll call beforehand, before we go into this. So we'll hand over now to Carol to take us to a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. So Councillor Carl Lewis.
Present.
Councillor Gareth Jones. Councillor Angela Davis. Councillor Deb Edwards.
Present.
Councillor Les George. Councillor Peter James.
Present.
Councillor Adrian Jones.
Present.
Councillor Gareth E. Jones.
Present.
Councillor Karina Kenyon Wade.
Present.
Ian McIntosh.
Present.
Councillor Gwynfor Thomas has left the meeting. Councillor Elwyn Vaughan has left the meeting. Councillor Hugh Williams.
Um,
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Carol. Right, on to our final application for today, which is 22/2049/FUL, erection of dwelling and associated works, land at City House, 4 Crosses, Llanymynech. Taking us through this application is Keris Denman. Over to you, Keris.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. The application for you is application 222049/FUL, being the erection of a dwelling and associated works at land at City House, 4 Crosses. As shown on the slide, the application site is demonstrated by the star. It's located within the village of 4 Crosses, and 4 Crosses is recognised as a large village under policy SP5 of the Powys LDP. The application site is located to the southeast of a Grade 2 listed city house and the Grade 2 listed house attached to the post office. The application site is edged red on the plan shown. The application site is located within the development boundary of 4 Crosses, and as such, under policy H1 of the Powys LDP, it is considered that the principle of development of a dwelling at this location does comply with the relevant planning policy, subject to review of other material considerations. As seen from the block plan, the proposed dwelling is set within residential curtilage. Parking is provided within the curtilage, and the site is accessed from an existing access from the county highway, the B4393. I think the following slides just show the proposed dwelling design of the dwelling. This is the front elevation. Again, the rear elevation. I see on the rear elevation now, I know windows proposed, as some solar panels proposed on the rear roof elevation. These are both side elevations. I think, as can be seen within the committee report, the proposed design and scale of the dwellings is considered acceptable, and it's not considered that it would cause any adverse impact upon the setting of any nearby Grade 2 listed buildings. Again, just a slide showing the proposed floor plans of the dwelling. It's a detached 2-story, 3-bedroom property. Say the site would be accessed and utilise the existing access from the B4393 as shown. The local highways authority have commented that the existing access as shown here and on the following slide does benefit from adequate visibility displays. They are content the proposed development will not have any detrimental impact on highway movements in the area. This photograph shows the application site as viewed from the north of the site. It's currently an area of hard standing and grass. Again, another photograph of the site looking to the west and neighbouring buildings to the proposed application site. This photograph looks south towards the application site. It is noted there are sort of neighbouring dwellings to the south. Therefore, neighbouring amenity has been considered. As outlined within the committee report, officers consider that there will be no detrimental impact in any way of overshadowing or privacy by the proposed development on the neighbouring property. And just a following site, this is just of the east of the development site and the boundary of the site. I think, as seen, the application site is within a large private courtyard. This photograph shows land to the north of the site and parking provisions which are existing within this area of the land. It has been acknowledged within the committee report, some concerns have been raised with regard to parking. It is considered that the proposed development will not reduce any existing allocated parking on the site. Vehicles are able to leave and enter the site within a forward gear. Given that the local highways authority do not object to the proposals and the submitted plans demonstrate that the application site can accommodate parking provisions, it's considered there wouldn't be any adverse impact in this respect. And finally, the Built Heritage Officer has been consulted and he has raised no objections with regard to proposed development and considered it would not cause any harm to the setting of the nearby list of buildings. This is it's a grade 2 city listed, it's city house, it's grade 2 listed just on within the area application site owned by the applicant. I think generally all other issues have been addressed within the committee report. The recommendation is therefore one of approval subject to the conditions set out within the committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Karis. Members, I'm in your hands. Councillor Les George, please. You're on mute, Councillor Les.
Thank you, Chair. Having gone through all the paperwork and the notes regarding this application, once again, I feel that this application complies with the planning policy, and I am happy to go with the officer's recommendation of conditional consent.
Thank you very much, Councillor Les. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just in the previous application, we considered planning loss as an issue around turning spaces, etc. I note that the comments here is around access and vehicles out into reverse out. Has the officer got any comments on that?
I think obviously the Highways Authority have been consulted. They're happy that there's adequate parking and that vehicles can leave within the forward gear. I don't think the Highways Office is online if he wishes to comment.
Do we still have Steve Jones online?
Or Edin.
Or Edin? Edin, you happy to comment on that, Edin?
Yes, yeah, I'm here, Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for question and good afternoon, members. Yeah, I mean, this if Karis perhaps can just show the access provision, we got no issues with this application. The access is wide enough to accommodate traffic. It's existing access serving the very large private courtyard. Access is wide enough to accommodate vehicle egress. And so the vehicles will be able to, obviously they are doing it at the moment anyway, coming, into the site in a forward gear, huge turning circle within a site, and to leave the site in a forward gear. Visibility is adequate, more than adequate, in accordance with the standards. And we also note, if Karis can just show the location plan, just show the block plan, that clearly shows that the site can accommodate vehicle parking in relation to property in accordance with the CSS Parking Wales standards. So in this instance, we got no objections or concerns with the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Edin. Are you satisfied with that, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Adrian Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just note in the pack that there was a planning application before that was refused, and this is a resubmission. What is the change? Is it a smaller size house, or what is the reason?
Yes.
I think the reason for the refusal of the previous application was on the impact of the setting of the listed house. Since then, the applicant has come in and taken pre-application advice from the Built Heritage Officer and reduced the scale and the design of the house, which is now part of this current application. The Built Heritage Officer is happy with these revised plans and raising no objection in context of the listed house.
Thank you, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, members, I'm in your hands. I've got a proposal from Councillor Les George to go along with the application. I don't have a seconder yet. Councillor Gareth Jones, Vice Chair, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second Councillor Les's proposal. As it has been called in, I would have liked to have seen the local councillor talking, giving a representation of what they thought, but unfortunately that's not the case. So happy to second to go along with officer recommendation.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Just checking if there's anyone else wishing to speak. I take it Councillor Les, Councillor Gareth and Councillor Adrian and Vice Chair, you're all legacy hands there?
Old hand, Chair.
Okay. Okay, it's been proposed and duly seconded to go along with the officer's recommendation, which is one of conditional consent. Those members wishing to do so may indicate in the voting slip, which will appear in the chat momentarily. Thank you. There we are, members. The link is there. If there are any members not able to vote electronically, please indicate and we'll come to you for a verbal. Councillor Karina Kenyon-Wade, please.
Four.
Thank you.
The chair, we've got 11 members in the meeting, and 11 have voted for the application.
Thank you very much, Carol. That meets with the officer's recommendation. We'll move on to item number 5, which is the delegated list. If there's no observations, can I have a proposal and seconded just to accept them, please? Anyone? Thank you very much, Councillor Angela. Do I have a seconder?
Seconder, Carl.
Thank you very much. Vice
Chair is Councillor Hugh. There are 2 items relating to Nant Helen on the delegated list. I have made contact with Peter Morris before the meeting. I'm not sure whether that correspondence should be responded to out of the meeting, but I'll ask online because it is there, whether Peter Morris could comment on whether he wants to respond privately, if you see what I mean.
Yes,
I will, Councillor Hugh, if I may, and I'll bring you up to date with other things happening on that particular site.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item number 6 is appeals decisions. We don't have any. We're on now to item number 7, which is the development management performance, which will be presented by Peter Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to bring to committee a report. We discussed it last time doing this around performance and workload within the service area. So you can see what we're dealing with at the moment as a service. Every quarter, so at the end of every 3-month period in the year, we do report to Welsh Government. All authorities across Wales report to Welsh Government on performance. So what I've done is I've used the sort of main headlines from that report and put them to you here, really just for information purposes, so you can see what we're dealing with. I wasn't envisaging a massive sort of discussion around this, but questions would be welcome. I think workload wise, you can see, for example, if I took to 2.2 in the report.
I'll just pause you there, Peter. Just for members to know, it was sent out on Tuesday, yesterday, I should say, at 5:23, and it's an attachment, which is a Word attachment. So if you'd like to click on that and get that up on your screens as Peter goes through it. Sorry, Peter, back to you.
Yeah, or it's also on the public.
Oh, it's on the public. Yeah.
Meetings agenda. It's been published for everybody to read.
Yes.
So just application numbers, really, just what we received in the quarter, what we determined. So we had 341. I think as we move forward with this, if subject to this committee's agreement, I can do sort of updates so you can see how the position is changing quarter by quarter as we move. At the moment, I've just given you a sort of blunt figure in time. 2.3 just sets out what we have for all application types within the service area at the moment. Now that is everything. that could be certificates of lawfulness, it could be discharges of condition applications, it could be non-material amendments, it could be pre-application consultations, it could be planning applications for outline, planning applications for reserve matters. It's absolutely everything that we have in the system. So we began the quarter with 634. That was our starting point. We left the quarter with 621. Okay, so there's a small reduction there. I haven't done this all the way through the report, but I took a look back to see where we were at the beginning, the first quarter, when we started back in April 22, and we started at 672. So we've come down 50 or so since then, which is positive, and that's the direction that we're moving in. I think when we were sort of mid-COVID, August 21, I've got in my head, we were up around about 900 applications, and there are lots of reasons for that, but we've been working hard, and I want to recognise that sort of publicly. The team have been working hard, and that number is gradually falling, and we'll hopefully continue to see it fall. Average time for applications was section 2.4, so we report on that, and we do it for major applications on their own, and then for all applications, which also includes the major application timelines. So the major applications, the determination period there is quite long, 461. What were those majors? Those major applications, some of them this committee will be aware of. I think that we recently considered an application for a pig rearing unit. That was one of those applications, and that was pushing not far. I think it was in the 900 days, given the backwards and forwards that was happening with the agent and the applicant on that one. I've mentioned the crematorium application there. That was called in for decision by the Minister for Climate Change. Whilst that call-in is happening, the clock still carries on ticking. So that was not far approaching 1,000 days for that one. The other one I mentioned there was the Bilth-Wells Hospital Road application, it is, which was sat pending determination for some time. We were lenient, we didn't refuse that one because we could see a solution in sight really around the phosphate issue with the wastewater treatment works. And that's a large housing scheme, which includes affordable housing, and we've granted that one permission there. So it does, there's a long range there. Overall timescales, 118 days. And I did some maths the other day just to see what that means on the ground. And I think Welsh Government does define good, fair and improvement categories. And we sit just in the improvement category there. Could be quicker, but we do provide opportunity for applicants to amend. But this is all about having good quality applications, to my mind, to see application determination times speed up. And I know we've presented to the committee in the past around that, and I continue to present to agents around that. Okay. 2.5, determination of applications within time periods. Without going into too much detail there, we sit in the highest category there. Welsh Government's benchmark that local authorities have is 80% of applications determined within time period. For the Q3, we were just under 93%. Now that, as I've just mentioned the timelines previously, obviously we're in the improvement category, nudging the fair category there. What we do, as I say, is give applicants opportunity to extend times, determination periods. Those are built into those figures as well. So, and that's allowed under the Welsh Government's performance rules or guidance. So we actually come up in the top category. Again, that's a good performance as far as I'm concerned. Major applications, it's similar. The benchmark from Welsh Government is 60%, and we've achieved just under 90. So even though they've taken a long time, we've had those extensions of time agreed with applicants, allowing them to remedy applications. Appeals, We report all appeals to this committee. Haven't reported any today, but next meeting, I'm aware of 2 appeals that will be coming, have come in the last week, so they'll have to be reported to you. Not a considerable number of appeals there. Two dismissed, 1 was allowed. Okay. Enforcement cases, target there again, Wales wide, is to try and investigate cases within 84 days or less. That's the benchmark again for all authorities across Wales. In the quarter, there were 32 done within that benchmark time period of 84 days. 10 went beyond that, which is disappointing, but it also reflects the resource that we've got at the moment within the team. So I think the team have done very well, certainly with planning application determinations, and we're seeing that decrease. This one's challenging, I think it would be fair to say, but our performance isn't awful. I think there's always room for improvement, but it gives you an idea of the level of investigations that are going on. And then we've got the average time there. Again, you can see that some will have taken longer than that 84 days. Yeah. So I think subject to this committee's agreement, what I would intend to do is come back then with Q4, and I can begin adding that then to this report. You can begin to see the trends that are emerging over time around workload and performance.
I think that's a good idea, Peter. Does anyone in the committee have any objection to that?
No.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'll take it from the silence that that's a recommendation from the committee for you to do that, Peter. It looks very obvious to me, such as the pig rearing unit that we had here, you know, on the face of it, quite a simple application. Comes down to agents top loading their applications when they come in, and you know, I think that would help you and the planning officers going forward. It's great to see that those determination times are coming down and going in the right direction, so congratulations to you all. Any questions from members, please? Councillor Ian McIntosh, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just a quick one, really. I know the planning service has been struggling with, you know, having enough staff really for 2, 3, 4 years, possibly longer. But the reason I'm sort of asking this question now is I was contacted one day last week, I think it was Thursday, possibly Friday, by an agent who'd been trying to get in touch with somebody in planning, and they were trying all day, and there was basically nobody there, and they went through the switchboard. I was just wondering, is that a one-off, or are we sort of really up against it even more? You know, basically what I'm trying to get at, are we still in a position where we need more staff in order to offer a half decent planning service to go forward?
I personally think that, you know, we do offer a half decent service, definitely, but we could always do with more staff.
Yeah, perhaps half decent was a bit cruel, but you know what I mean. I'm sure, you know, with more staff, perhaps we get through a lot of these, you know, the applications that have been sat there for a while. But if we're in a position where we can't even answer the phone, then something needs to change, really.
Yeah, without going into too much detail on the specifics, I'm aware of that one, Councillor McIntosh. I think the officer he was trying to contact was a part-time officer, so she doesn't work Fridays. So he rang on the wrong day. He then tried her line manager. Her line manager was conducting site visits then that day. So we've just got a set of circumstances where he wasn't able to get through. We are arranging to meet that individual. Okay, so we've made contact. It's just unfortunate that's what happens. We do publish our telephone number online. We're reviewing how we do that at the moment, and there will be discussions with the customer service, the contact centre as well around that. There should always be somebody somewhere that could pick up a phone and speak. So it's unfortunate that that's happened in that circumstance. But again, if these things happen, I'm always here to listen. We need to be open and available to people.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. It sounds like it was more of a one-off then, really. So thanks for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Angela Davis, please.
So,
your microphone on your laptop, but you haven't put your microphone on the room.
Thank you.
No worries.
Oh God, now I look at myself. So in planning meetings previously, you've mentioned the quality of applications, and you talked about how you want to work with applicants in the future. So I'm wondering sort of what's happening in there. Would we be able to, have you done anything, or has there been any uptake in that, and have you seen any improvements?
Yeah, I know we've been sharing messages with a number of different audiences, yourselves as members, one of them, community town councils is another one. With agents, we've been running agent training sessions on various topics. We're only really probably at the start of that. We've run 2 to date. There's more planned, and we've been trying to share that also so it's available to members and anybody else as well. So it's all aimed around that sort of understanding of all our roles and perspectives and what we're looking for. How do we get better? And we're all in this together. So it's not just us. It's how do we get agent better? How do we get better with all the various consultees of the process? So there's a lot of work going on there, and that will continue. That will continue forever, to my mind.
Well, that's good to hear, because it clearly is a lot of frustration on both sides, isn't there, when applications are going back and forward. And I would suggest that's probably when the time limits drag out, when you're waiting for the response or they're waiting for the response. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an example. So with Caris's application, that was obviously withdrawn for built heritage reasons. Then they went and got pre-application advice from our built heritage officer, and then today, that application was approved following them going away and taking away our advice, changing the proposal. That's the kind of service we're trying to provide. We're trying to work with people to get the results. It's just, we need them to work with us.
Thank you.
Yes, Peter. Yeah, just sort of come back on that. I think time periods are like bits of elastic at time, where historically we have allowed, we've been very lenient and allowed lots of amendments as things get put right. I think we can't afford to do that, because whilst all that's happening, new applications arrive. So you're getting a backlog building up. So we do have to try and get out of that, and that's not just us, but that's applicants as well. And it's building up congestion really for all the consultees as well, because if they're being consulted multiple times on amendments, then their workload increases. So we need to try and break that, and I think we will try and be reasonable around this as an authority, give people fair opportunity, but we can't continue to allow amendment after amendment after amendment. So I think that's an important message that I would put out and share with anybody that might be listening as well. Okay.
As we all know, town and community councils are very important, Peter. When do you have your next information sharing session with town and community councils?
I actually don't know offhand, Chair,
Right,
but that
okay.
one, I think we're due one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know of 2 community councils who I represent, and they do get frustrated sometimes where their views are taken on board, and it'd be good maybe sometimes to have a system where feedback could be sent back to town and community councils where they feel part of the application.
Yeah, sure. I don't know if I'm going to steal Luke's thunder here. Officers are making contact with clerks. We've divided the county up. So there's an additional piece of work really for us, which we weren't doing before, and trying to build up a rapport at that local level. Some will and some won't. But that offer has been made and contact's been made. So some community council clerks certainly are in contact. Luke, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, we've offered them that we'd give them a phone call once a month. It's up to them how, we want to discuss issues they're experiencing. It's up to them whether they take that opportunity. We've had feedback, some do like that opportunity, some like it on a less frequent basis. So we are trying to improve that overall engagement with them.
Can you go up and round is what I'm thinking.
Councillor Deborah had her microphone on. Councillor Gareth E. Jones, please.
Yeah, just pick up on that last point, Chair. I'm a acting clerk to a community council and I get a regular monthly update from the officer.
That's good. Is there a process to sign up to that, Luke?
No, we make contact with the clerks and offer them that service and they come to us. We've got a spreadsheet. We keep note of whether they want contact or on what basis, yeah,
Okay.
and what we discuss.
The two community councils I represent, I've had a new clerk recently, so I'll pick it up with it.
Yeah,
that's good. Anyone else got anything to ask? Nope. Oh, okay, Peter, thanks for that. We'll move on now to item number 8 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest on the taxi licensing. Anyone got any declarations of interest on that? I don't think so. Let's have a look down here. Okay, the meeting took place on Wednesday, the 8th of February. Councillor Hugh Williams chaired it, Councillor Les George and Councillor Gareth E. Jones were in attendance. Gentlemen, could I have a proposer and seconder for that those minutes are an accurate representation of what transpired, please?
I propose, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gareth. Okay, that concludes our meeting for today. Carol, do you have the date of our next meeting, please?
Yes, Chair, the next meeting is on the 16th of March.
Okay, thank you. Just leaves me to thank all the officers who presented today, members of the public who contributed to the speaking session we had on the applications, and for you members in the chamber and at home, and members of the press and members of the public watching. Thank you very much. I close this meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.